Welcome to Honeybee. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. I still remember the night before my wedding as if it happened just yesterday. Everything seemed to be falling into place. The decorations were ready. Our families were in town, and my fiancée, Claire, had spent the entire day finalizing last-minute details. I should have felt excitement, the kind that keeps you awake with anticipation. But instead, I felt something else, an odd restlessness I couldn't name. It was almost midnight when my phone buzzed on a nightstand. I assumed it was one of my groomsmen joking around, or maybe my mom checking if I had packed everything for the ceremony. But when I looked at the screen, my stomach tightened. The message was from Daniel, Claire's brother. That alone was unusual. Daniel, and I had always had a polite, distant relationship. He wasn't exactly unfriendly, but he'd always kept a certain distance, as if he was observing rather than participating. He was protective of his sister. Everyone knew that, but he also never interfered in her personal matters. So, a text from him at midnight before my wedding instantly felt strange. When I opened the message, my heart started racing. You deserve better. Ask her about what happened in Chicago. For a moment, I thought I'd misread it. My eyes darted over the words again, hoping I had imagined them. But no, they were there, plain and clear. 1,000 thoughts hit me at once. What did he mean? What happened in Chicago? Claire had gone there for a work trip a few months ago. She'd said it was a 3-day conference with her company's marketing team. I hadn't thought much about it. She called every night, sent me photos, even brought me back a souvenir mug with Windy City printed on it. I sat there staring at the screen, trying to breathe. My heart was pounding so loudly I could hear it echo in my ears. Was Daniel playing some kind of sick joke? Or did he know something I didn't? I typed back quickly. What are you talking about? A few seconds passed before the typing dots appeared. Then, after a pause, his reply came through. I can't say everything right now. Just don't marry her until you ask. You have the right to know. And then nothing. He stopped responding. I called him immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. I called again and again, but the same thing happened. I left a message, trying to sound calm though my voice trembled. Daniel, I don't know what you're trying to say, but this isn't funny. Call me back. But he never did. For the next hour, I sat in the dark, phone in hand, staring at that single line of text over and over again. You deserve better. Ask her about what happened in Chicago. Each time I read it, the meaning seemed to twist deeper into my chest. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe he misunderstood something. Maybe Claire had an argument with someone or got involved in some drama at work. It could have been anything innocent, but there was something about the tone of his message that made it sound final, like a warning, not a misunderstanding. Sleep became impossible. I paced around my apartment, looking at the suit hanging neatly by the door, the shoes polished and waiting, the wedding ring glimmering faintly under the lamplight. Everything that had once symbolized happiness now felt heavy and uncertain. By morning, my eyes were red, and my hand shook slightly from exhaustion. My best man, Alex, came to pick me up for the rehearsal breakfast. He immediately noticed my mood. Man, you look like you haven't slept, he said, frowning. Nerves. Something like that. I muttered. During breakfast, Claire looked radiant, dressed in soft blue, smiling easily with everyone. She leaned in to whisper something about how she couldn't wait to see me at the altar. Her eyes were full of warmth, the same eyes that had once made me fall for her in the first place. And yet, I couldn't shake off Daniel's words. I wanted to ask her right then, but how could I? In front of everyone? How do you say, hey, your brother told me you're hiding something about Chicago, in the middle of a joyful morning surrounded by family. So I kept quiet. Later, while she was busy taking pictures with her bridesmaids, I pulled Daniel aside. He looked tired, maybe even guilty, but when he saw me walking toward him, he straightened up. Daniel, I said in a low voice, we need to talk. He hesitated. Now's not a good time. It wasn't a good time last night either. I snapped quietly. But you texted me anyway. So talk. What did you mean by that message? He looked around, checking if anyone was watching. I shouldn't be the one to tell you, he muttered. But I couldn't let you walk into this blind. Into what? He sighed heavily, rubbing his forehead. Ask for yourself. She needs to be honest with you. I was losing my patience. Honest about what, Daniel? He stared at me for a long moment, his expression full of conflict. Then, without answering, he just said, You'll find out soon enough, and walked away. I wanted to chase after him, but my mother called me over for a group photo, and by the time I looked back, he was gone. The rest of the day was a blur. Everyone was cheerful, final preparations underway. Guests arriving, laughter filling the air. But inside, I felt like I was standing on the edge of something I couldn't see. Every time Claire smiled at me, I felt torn between love and suspicion. That evening, as the sun dipped low, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I texted Claire, Can we talk for a few minutes? Alone. She replied almost instantly, Of course. Meet me in the garden. When I got there, she was waiting under the old oak tree, the same place where I had proposed to her a year ago. She smiled softly, reaching for my hand. What's wrong? You look pale. I hesitated, then asked, Claire, what happened in Chicago? Her smile froze. Her fingers tightened around mine for a moment before she let go. What do you mean? She asked too quickly. Your brother texted me last night. I said, my voice shaking slightly. He told me to ask you about what happened there. He said I deserved better. What did he mean? For a moment, she said nothing. I could almost hear the wind brushing through the leaves. Her eyes darted away, then back to mine. Daniel shouldn't have said anything, she whispered finally. That single sentence was enough to confirm that something had happened. My chest went cold. So there's something, I said, my voice rising despite my effort to stay calm. Claire, what happened? She took a deep breath and stepped back. It wasn't what you think, she began softly. When I went to Chicago, I made a mistake. I got too drunk one night after the company dinner, and I kissed someone. Just a kiss. It meant nothing, I swear. Her words hit me like a wave. My stomach twisted. You kissed someone? I repeated slowly, struggling to process it. And you didn't think that mattered? Tears welled up in her eyes. I was scared to tell you. It was a stupid, meaningless thing, and I didn't even remember it properly until the next morning. I thought if I told you, it would ruin everything. It was just one night of bad judgment. I turned away, running a hand through my hair. My thoughts were spiraling. Daniel knew about this? He found out, she said quietly. The guy was a co-worker, and Daniel overheard me crying on the phone to my friend about it afterward. I stared at her, anger and heartbreak mixing in my chest. So you've been hiding this for months, all while planning our wedding. I love you, James, she said desperately. It was a mistake, I swear. I've been sick with guilt. Please don't let that one moment destroy everything we've built. But I couldn't answer. Every time I looked at her, all I could see was that moment she'd shared with someone else. While I was here, trusting her, loving her without doubt, we stood in silence for what felt like forever. Finally, I said quietly, I need some time to think. She reached for me, but I stepped back. Claire, please, she whispered, tears falling down her cheeks. Don't walk away. I'm not walking away, I said, my voice low and tired. But I can't marry you tomorrow. Not like this. Not with lies between us. Her sobs echoed softly in the quiet garden as I walked back toward the house. Every step felt heavier than the last. Inside, people were laughing and chatting, unaware that everything had just shattered. That night, I sat alone in my car outside the venue, the wedding ring box in my hands. I opened it, stared at the band of gold, and wondered how something so small could carry so much pain. Daniel's message kept replaying my mind. You deserve better. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if he was right. I didn't sleep that night. The world outside was quiet, but my thoughts were deafening. I sat in my car, the engine off, headlights dimmed, watching the empty road ahead. Somewhere beyond those hills, the sun would soon rise, and with it, the day I was supposed to marry Claire. But instead of feeling excitement, I felt hollow. Everything we had planned for months, the vows, the music, the laughter, suddenly felt meaningless. At 6 a.m., I finally drove home. My phone had dozens of missed calls from Claire, from her mother, even from Alex. I couldn't bring myself to answer any of them. I just needed silence. When I walked into my apartment, the smell of cologne and wedding flowers still lingered from the rehearsal dinner. My suit hung neatly where I had left it. I sat on the couch, staring at it, feeling like it belonged to someone else. Someone naive, someone who believed that love alone was enough to protect you from betrayal. Around 8, there was a knock on my door. I ignored it at first, assuming it was Alex coming to drag me to the venue. But the knocking continued, firm and persistent. When I opened the door, Daniel was standing there. He looked exhausted. His tie hung loose around his neck, and his eyes were red, as if he hadn't slept either. "Can I come in?" he asked quietly. I didn't respond. I simply stepped aside. He entered slowly, looking around like he didn't know where to start. After a moment, he said, "You didn't show up this morning. Everyone's freaking out." "I'm not marrying her," I said flatly. He nodded once, as if he had expected that answer. I figured. I turned to him, anger rising again. "Why didn't you just tell me the truth, Daniel? You could have saved me hours of confusion." He sighed. "Because it wasn't my secret to tell. I warned you because I couldn't stand the thought of you walking into something you didn't deserve. But I also hoped she would do the right thing and tell you herself." I clenched my fists. "And she didn't." "No," he said softly. "She didn't. But she's broken right now, James. She knows she ruined everything." "Then she should have thought about that before." I snapped. He didn't argue. He just nodded, like he agreed with me but couldn't bring himself to say it aloud. After a long silence, he added, "She really does love you, you know. What she did was wrong, no question, but she's been carrying the guilt ever since." "Love doesn't excuse betrayal," I said quietly. "You don't get to destroy someone's trust and then call it love." Daniel's eyes lowered. "You're right." He stood there for a moment, then said, "Whatever you decide to do, I'll back you up. You don't owe her a wedding today. You owe yourself peace." Those words hit deeper than he probably intended. When he left, I sat there staring at the empty doorway, trying to decide what peace even looked like anymore. By noon, my phone was still buzzing nonstop. Finally, I turned it off and just sat in silence. It was surreal. Somewhere, guests were probably taking their seats, waiting for the ceremony to begin, unaware that there would be no groom. At 1 p.m., Alex showed up. He didn't bother knocking. He just used the spare key I'd given him months ago. When he saw me still in my t-shirt and jeans, his expression softened. "So it's true," he murmured. "You're calling it off?" I nodded. He sat beside me, his voice gentle. "You don't owe anyone an explanation, man, but you do need to let them know." "I know," I whispered. "I just don't know what to say." "Say the truth," he said simply. After a long pause, I nodded again. I picked up my phone, turned it on, and saw a flood of messages. Claire's name appearing again and again. My hand shook as I opened one. "Please, James, let me explain again. I'll wait for you at the venue. Don't do this." I stared at the words for a long time before replying. "I'm not coming. I can't marry you after what you did." I didn't wait for her reply. I turned the phone off again and leaned back, closing my eyes. The weight that pressed on my chest wasn't just heartbreak. It was finality, the kind that comes when a dream ends before it even begins. Later that afternoon, my mother came over. She had tears in her eyes the moment she saw me. "James," she said softly, "everyone's talking. Claire's mother is devastated. Are you sure this is what you want?" I nodded, though my throat burned. "I can't marry someone who lied to me, Mom. I can't start a marriage built on half-truths." She sighed, sitting beside me. "Sometimes people make mistakes out of fear, not malice." "I understand that," I said, my voice breaking slightly. "But when you choose to hide it for months, that's not fear anymore. That's deception." She reached for my hand, squeezing it. "Then you're doing the right thing. I'm proud of you for standing by your values." That simple sentence hit me harder than anything else. For the first time that day, I let the tears fall freely. 2 weeks passed before I heard from Claire again. I'd gone back to work, though my focus was non-existent. My co-workers whispered at first, then stopped when they saw how empty I looked. Then, one evening, as I was leaving the office, I saw her waiting by my car. Her hair was tied back, and her eyes were swollen from crying. She looked smaller somehow, like the weight of everything had crushed her. "James," she said softly, stepping forward. "Please, can we talk?" I hesitated, then nodded slowly. We sat on a nearby bench, the city buzzing faintly around us. "I don't expect forgiveness," she began, "but I need you to know how sorry I am. I've replayed that night in Chicago over and over, wishing I could take it back. It meant nothing. It was one stupid, drunken moment, and it destroyed everything that mattered to me." Her voice cracked, and tears spilled down her face. "I've been in therapy. I'm trying to figure out why I did something so selfish. I think I was scared of being too happy, scared that I didn't deserve someone like you." I looked at her, my chest aching. "You didn't need to be perfect, Claire. You just needed to be honest." She nodded slowly. "I know. I wish I'd told you the truth before it was too late." Silence stretched between us, filled only by the sound of distant traffic. I could see that she was truly remorseful. But forgiveness isn't something you can force, not when trust has been broken so completely. "I don't hate you," I said finally, "but I can't go back. Every time I think about us, I see that message from your brother. I hear those words, 'You deserve better,' and I realize he was right. We both deserve better than a love full of fear and secrets." She wiped her tears, nodding slowly. "I understand." When she stood up to leave, she hesitated, then whispered, "Thank you for loving me the way you did, even if it didn't last forever." And then she walked away, disappearing into the crowd. I watched until she was gone, feeling an odd mixture of pain and peace. Months passed. Life slowly started to feel normal again. The wedding that never happened became a quiet story people whispered about less and less. I focused on work, traveled a little, reconnected with old friends. There were nights when I still missed her laugh, her warmth. But those memories started to fade like old photographs, replaced by something steadier: acceptance. One evening, I met Daniel again at a cafe by coincidence. He looked surprised to see me, but smiled faintly. "Hey," he said, setting his coffee down. "It's been a while." "Yeah," I said, shaking his hand. "How's Claire?" "She's healing," he replied. "She moved to another city for a new job, trying to start fresh." I nodded, feeling a strange calmness settle over me. "That's good. She deserves a chance to rebuild." Daniel hesitated, then said, "I wanted to thank you for not tearing her apart in front of everyone that day. You handled it better than most people would have." "I didn't want revenge," I said simply. "I just wanted honesty." He gave a small nod. "You're a good man, James. I'm sorry you had to find out the way you did." "Maybe it was better that I did," I replied quietly. "Sometimes the truth hurts less than living a lie." We parted on good terms. For the first time since that awful night, I felt light, like I could finally breathe again. It's been almost a year now. Sometimes I still think about the life we could have had, the wedding, the home, the plans we made. But I've learned something important through it all. Love isn't just about grand gestures or promises whispered under moonlight. It's about truth. And when truth dies, love slowly follows. Daniel's late-night message changed everything, but also saved me. It forced me to face a truth that would have destroyed me later. And while the pain of losing Claire still lingers in some quiet corner of my heart, I'm grateful for the lesson, for the strength it gave me, and even for the heartbreak that taught me how to start over. These days, when I see the sunrise, I no longer feel dread or regret. I just feel ready for whatever comes next, ready to trust again, but this time with eyes wide open, because maybe Daniel was right all along. I did deserve better, and now I finally believe it.